Hey YouTube, it's Faye, and for today's video I'm going to do a little maintenance to this 2003 Lexus RX300 with the V6 engine. Now, this engine was an option from 1998 until 2003 in this model Lexus, but you could also find this engine in the 93 to 2003 Lexus ES300, the 93 to 06 Camry, the 94 to 04 Avalon, the 97 to 2000 Sienna, 98 to 03 Solara, and the 2000 to 2003 Highlander, and some other vehicles that were only offered in Japan. So this tutorial will be applicable to all of those vehicles as well. Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna be replacing these today. Now obviously on this engine, the 1MZ-FE, getting to the front three spark plugs, it's relatively easy. But getting to the rears, not so much. Because, well, there's this massive intake manifold in the way. But never fear, you do not have to take everything off to get to the rear bank spark plugs. And that is what today's video is going to be about. How to change the spark plugs in the rear without removing the intake manifold. So here goes. You're gonna wanna begin by removing the engine cover, and you do that by removing these three little nuts. And we're just gonna do that with our 5mm hex key socket. Then, once you have those three 5mm Allen key nuts removed, the fourth nut is actually a little surprising. It's this Lexus emblem, which you can actually just pop up, but sometimes you can damage them, especially being this old. So I just spin it off lefty-loosey, and you can see that underneath the side of this Lexus emblem, there are just these little teeth. It looks like a reverse Christmas tree clip, and those screw on to this little stud. Now for reinstallation of this engine cover, after securing those three nuts in place, you can just slide that Lexus emblem right back over, and you can hear it sort of click back into place. You don't have to screw it back once you're done. When retightening these, don't overdo it. Remember, this is plastic on aluminum and a steel bolt, so nice and easy. Also, on some models, you may find that you'll have to remove the oil cap first before removing this engine cover, because they have a little bit more of a gasket here, and that oil cap sort of helps secure it in place. All right, so let's start with cylinder one, because it's the easiest of the rear three spark plugs. I was able to lift up on the tab of that clip with my 90-degree pick and remove it by hand, but just be careful, this plastic is very brittle.
So once I get the socket on there, I'm using one hand inside to just hold the top of the ratchet down onto that 10mm bolt. And I think I'm at a point where I can loosen it by hand now. Yep. Perfect.
All right, so I've got this little flathead screwdriver that I'm just going to sort of pass myself through the back here.
And then use it to pry from the front of the coil closer to where that bolt hole is that goes through. And then I'm gonna use my hand to pull up on the back side. So I don't wanna just pull up from one side because I don't wanna crack this ignition coil. That would suck. There we go. Popped right up. Now it's like, how the heck are we gonna snake it out of here, right? Well, we've got this little hose here.
All right, one down. And now to get to that spark plug, I have my 3-inch wobbly extension paired with my magnetic spark plug socket. These can fit easily in that small space together, no problem, and slide right into that spark plug tube. Next, I have my flex head ratchet with a very small wobbly extension, and as soon as I am able to break that spark plug loose and clear those first few stubborn threads, I will speed up the process by removing the plug the rest of the way by hand. I always add a little anti-seize to help the next person who does this job in another 90,000 miles, and I will use the same combination of tools to reinstall the plug. Now, removing these tools can be a challenge. It's difficult to pop that little wobbly off the socket, so I pull those two out together, but then I reinstall that wobbly onto the extension to give me more to hold on to for pulling the extension and the spark plug back out. This scoop that I squeeze into the base of the coil here is dielectric grease, and this will help keep the moisture out of the coil and also help keep a nice clean connection between the coil and the plug and prevent misfires. As we tighten this little 10mm coil bolt back down, remember that we are going into the aluminum valve cover here, so don't over tighten, just get it snug. I would mention here that the torque spec is 66 inch-pounds, but who's gonna fit a torque wrench back in there? No one. And of course, don't forget to reattach that hose before finishing up cylinder 1, because we'll be removing cylinder 3 from the other side, so this is not going to be in our way anymore. Now let's move on to cylinder 5. Using two 12mm wrenches and being careful not to move the adjustment nuts too much, I'm removing the cruise control cable here because it's going to make it much easier to film. This isn't totally necessary to do the job. However, if you have much larger hands than I do, this could help you. I'm able to reach that 10mm bolt with my short 10mm socket and my little 1/4" drive gear wrench ratchet, loosening up just enough to speed up the process by removing the rest of the way by hand. But the hardest part of this and the cylinder 3 spark plug is removing the electrical connector. So be careful, be patient, this part sucks for everyone. I have a small flathead screwdriver along with this 90-degree pick to help me disconnect this connector. Once I get that coil out of there, I can go in for the spark plug, removing and replacing it just like I did with cylinder 1, using that same setup of tools. I used my longer handled ratchet for the torque to break that spark plug loose, then swapped out to my shorty gear wrench ratchet for some speed. This ratchet is perfect for this job because it fits in that tiny area under the intake manifold perfectly, and the 120-degree teeth gives me many increments of bite. And as you can see here, much like cylinder 1, you cannot remove all the tools together. You have to separate them to remove them in sections. I need a little more of this. All right, get in there, dielectric grease. Nice, that feels tight. I love this little ratchet. It made it so easy to just lock it in place. So unlike my other one that's like sort of flip-floppy and it'll just sort of, you know, flop all around. It's like, I wanted it right there in that shape and I locked it in place and that made this so much easier. All right, let's try to get my GoPro from out of there. And now for cylinder 3, and without a doubt the most difficult. This time I'm removing the coil bolt first so I can swing the coil around a bit to give me better access to the electrical connector. And no, I cannot see anything that is going on under the manifold. I'm doing all of this by feel, which is why my fingers are sort of fumbling around down in there. And here we go, our last plug. Really, the hardest part about getting these plugs is having the right combination of tools and I guess like not destroying your hands in the process. Heck yes, all rear bank spark plugs have been replaced without removing the intake manifold. Now it's time to put everything back together and fire her up. Now you may have noticed in the background that I did remove the air box. This was not for accessing the spark plugs. This is so I could sneak my GoPro in through the back to get the proper angle for filming. All right, so now that you've seen the process, let's go over the tools that I used to do this job. Here are the tools that I used to do this job, starting left to right. A 90-degree pick. This is from, I'm sure you're very familiar with this, 4-piece Harbor Freight kit, little pick set. Love these so much and they're super cheap. I used 2 flathead screwdrivers. This is a little bit smaller one and then I have a little bit of a larger one here. I only used this tool, which are awesome. I love these 90-degree pliers, to remove actually like some of my extensions off of the end of my ratchets and like help me grab them. It's really the only reason why I had those. You can also use them to remove hoses, but you saw it earlier in the video that I was actually using my flathead screwdriver to remove the hose, so whatever is easiest. Then of course I have 3 different ratchets that I used throughout this video. This is the one that I used for torque. This is one of my favorites. Actually, this is my favorite ratchet. This is the first one that I ever bought and I've just had it since forever. Love it, but like I was mentioning, it's a little floppy. So I was using this locking 1/4" drive ratchet from Gear Wrench in order to get that 10mm socket in place over those coil packs. And this is just a little Craftsman 10mm socket that I have. Actually, it's Once again, older kit that I've had since forever. This is one of my favorite extensions. This is made by Mac Tools, and this is a locking 1/4" drive extension. So that just helps me not lose anything. So this is my 5mm Allen key. This is part of a set from Capri Tools. This is awesome. I think I just got this at AutoZone. This is a magnetic spark plug socket made by Duralast. And these two, this is the winning combination right here. This is once again made by Mac. This is my wobbly headed extension, my 3-inch, and this is a shorty 1-inch snap-on extension. And these were the winning combination that I used to get both in and out of those tight spaces. So that's definitely a lifesaver. Then paired with this, this is actually new. I picked this up just last year. This is awesome. This is such a versatile ratchet. It's so small and it's got 120 teeth. It's just, this is great. This was so perfect for this job. I wish I had bought this earlier. And then of course I just used 2 12mm wrenches in order to remove that cruise control cable, but that part wasn't totally necessary. And then of course the parts or shop supplies that I use are back here. And that was just some anti-seize, some dielectric grease, and then also these spark plugs. These are Denso, they're the factory spark plugs, and there is the part number. However, I will list these in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it helped you replace the spark plugs on your 1MZ Lexus or Toyota vehicle. And if you like this video and if it helped you, please leave me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments if you use this tutorial to help you replace your own spark plugs. I always love hearing that my videos help somebody. That's the only reason why I make them. So thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! What's that, Luna? Oh, cabbage. Your favorite. Wow, who's pecking at my belt? Oh, hi, sweet. What? Why are you throwing the cabbage, Athena? Oh.